Within the Transformers fandom, C.H.U.G is an acronym for Classics, Henkei, Universe, Generations. Toy lines that revolve around new figures of past characters. You could argue the likes of Alternators and Masterpiece from the early 2000s fall in this camp, but Classics, which succeeded both of them, really got the ball rolling. Generations is still technically ongoing, albeit through various sublines, the most recent being Age of the Primes. For the longest time, C.H.U.G has been largely Generation 1 centric, with only the occasional nod to other series like Beast Wars or Armada. Thankfully, since the Legacy trilogy, they ventured further into other continuities like Animated, Prime, and even Cyberverse, though G1 still gets plenty of attention. Cause believe it or not, there are characters from said era that they've yet to cover, or at least cover well. So I thought I'd do a couple Rune's Realms, not back to back necessarily, going over a small handful of Generation 1 characters that need a new toy. This video will focus on some Autobots. My first pick is a certain detective who has had a few modern toys already, none of which do him justice in my opinion. Nightbeat and his partner Muzzle was one of the Autobot headmasters released in 1988, alongside Siren and Hosehead. Consider them honourable mentions. It's strange as Nightbeat, from what I've heard, has a cult following thanks to the Marvel Comics, alongside other media appearances. Despite this, his modern toys include a redeco and head swap of Energon Hotshot, a redeco and head swap of Generation's Thrilling 30 Deluxe Class Bumblebee, and in Titan's Return, the Headmaster-inspired toy line. All we got was a small Titan Master figure that turned into Nightbeat's head, with a vehicle/weapon accessory. We want something a bit more substantial, please. I'm sure they can work around the Porsche alternate mode, they've done so before with other characters. However, the 88 Autobot Headmasters had a driver's seat accessory that formed a helmet for the robot mode, with twin blasters plugging onto the sides as antenna. If they can pull that off at the current deluxe size class, we'd have some pretty cool toys on our hands. And with the proper retooling, we might get an actual Headmaster Minerva. Hi Legacy. As most of the 1984 to 87 cast have received C.H.U.G updates, you'll find my picks are from the final few years of Generation 1, like Nightbeat prior and Landfill, with his partners Flintlock and Silencer. Landfill was one of 3 1988 Autobot Target Masters, along with Scoop and Quick Mix. For what it's worth, Scoop got a pretty good deluxe class toy for Thrilling 30, complete with both his partners, and was fairly prominent in IDW's comics. The other two? No such luck. I mean, a new Quick Mix would be nice, and another shot at Scoop for the 2020s I'd be fine with. They're willing to redo everyone else. But Landfill has my favourite design of the trio. Like the Constructicon Long Haul, the front of the dump truck forms the chest. However, the rear underside becomes the legs, while the truck bed splits in half and swings forward, revealing the arms and creating a broad-shouldered, powerful profile. Maybe he could even have a functioning bed? To accommodate all this engineering, I feel Landfill would have to be a deluxe-sized figure sold at the Voyager class price point. I suspect his partners would be as simple as Legacy Needlenoses and Quakes, with their gun modes still able to combine into a super weapon. Where C.H.U.G is concerned, the Pretender cast are hard to pin down. Some new toys of those characters are based mostly on the Pretender shell itself, some on the inner robot, and others blend the two design-wise. Age of the Prime's Carnivac, a retool of Titan's Return Wolfwire, pretty much falls in the second camp. And honestly, I don't see the remaining Pretender beasts being done any other way, including Catilla. I see Catilla as a companion piece to the new Carnivac toy, given the two are comrades in arms in the UK Marvel Comics. Here's something you may not know. While Catilla's G1 toy was marketed an Autobot, in those comics he starts out a Decepticon, though defects upon joining a group of Transformers called the Survivors. If a new Catilla was to reuse the Titan's Return Wolfwire mold, I'd pray they retool the Beast Head, preferably more than that, into a robotic saber-toothed tiger, decoed after the inner robot, like Carnivac, though perhaps work in the shell colours too so he's not, you know, 75% flat grey. And like that Carnivac, he'd retain the Titan's Return play pattern, with his robot head formed by, in Catilla's case, an Autobot Survivor Titan Master. I think it's fair to say that, on the whole, the Autobot pretenders just aren't as well known. Metal Hawk's original toy stands out for being sold only in Japan, and cult favourite Longtooth is an anthropomorphic walrus instead of a human in a stylised spacesuit. But for pick number 4, I've gone with the more obscure Pincher. Like Longtooth, Pincher was one of the pretenders released in 1989, where the alternate modes of the inner robots were far less abstract. As the name hints, he transforms into a robotic scorpion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this makes him one of the very rare heroic scorpion transformers out there. That in itself is just fascinating to me, hence why I want him. And this is where the aforementioned dilemma comes in. How do you modernize him? Because the original toy had the pedipalps form the robot arms, which is pretty overdone at this point. An amalgamation of the Shell and Beast mode could lead to a different transformation for him, like having the pincers become feet similar to Beast War's Quick Strike. Furthermore, would he be a standard Scorpion, or perhaps a Scorpion-shaped construction vehicle, a la Energon's Scorponok? Also, I'm guessing they changed the name, as Pincher has unfortunate connotations depending on how you look at it. While standard pretenders have transforming robots storing non-converting shells, with mega pretenders, the shell transforms too. 3 mega pretenders were released in America, and of the 2 Autobots from that group, I've picked Vroom. Thunderwing, the sole Decepticon, is by far the most popular of the trio due to, say it with me, his role in the Marvel Comics. But I have to say, Vroom arguably has a more clever design. With Mega Pretenders, the alternate modes of both the shell and inner robot could combine. All this amounts to for Thunderwing and the Autobot Crossblades is a nose extension, with maybe a few weapons. However, Vroom's shell turns into a motorcycle, while the inner robot becomes a dragster that can also merge with the motorcycle as a sidecar. For a new Vroom figure to sport the exact same features, he would need to be done at the Voyager price point minimum. One thing to note is that most modern toys of the Pretender characters typically drop the concept of a small robot and a hollow shell in favour of just the one regular transforming action figure. If that happened to Vroom, it'd be a great shame, but I'd hope he'd at least come with a sidecar that turns into a weapon or shield for him. Let's wrap up with something big, figuratively. Following the success of 1987's Decepticon six-changer, Six-Shot, the Autobots got in on the act the following year with Quick Switch. They were different molds, with Quick Switch being substantially smaller than his, father. Since then, Six-Shot got a modern toy in the Titan's Return line that was later redecoed and retooled into Quick Switch as part of the Chaos on Velocitron box set. On some level, I get this approach, given that both six-changers had similar alternate modes, namely the jet, pistol, submarine, as well as, well, one's a wolf, the other's a puma, but both are blocky, robotic quadruped mammals at the end of the day. However, Quick Switch's hydrofoil and drill tank modes were unaccounted for, so we wound up with Six-Shot's armoured car and missile tank modes instead. In a vacuum, as just a colourful multi-changing toy, it's still fine in a sense. But in the end, a new leader class mold that is actually accurate to Quick Switch's original design would go down fairly well, I'd imagine. Assuming six-changers can still be done at that price point, I chose leader class as it makes the two potential recolours, Six Knight and Hexadecimal, slightly more affordable. Commander class? Pushing it a bit. Do you like my picks? Would you have gone with someone else? Let me know in the comments. I don't know when I'll do the Decepticon video, though feel free to leave suggestions for that too. Until then, this has been Rune's Realm, and thanks for joining me by the fireplace. Take care.